Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, it's part 2 of our wood burning a wood slice project. Guys, we're having a lot of issues here with the wood slice with the different growth rings. Just show you here on the back, it's the darker rings on this slice that is causing the trouble. It is a more dense wood. It is taking the engraving very differently than what the lighter sections are. And that is just the nature of the wood slice. So we've had to make quite a few adjustments in the way that we're wood burning. And I have to tell you that the project is turning out much differently than the project I first had in my head when I started this. Now, this would be a very different scenario and a very different looking project if it was on something more stable like plywood. But being the wood slice, as I said, you need to adjust. You need to adapt to that and change your techniques and try some new ones to get the results you want. But we now have a few rocks that we need to burn in here. And for that, I'm going to use a small skew burning tip, and this is a little tricky on how to get these rocks kind of formed in here. You want to use the very tip, and while you're trying to curve this, you kind of twist this. You rotate the tip as you're going around a curve. Skews do not like to do curves, but you can force them to do it, kind of thing. And that is the way that you do it, by rotating the skew as you're going around the curves. Now these rocks, I'm not even going to worry too much about getting their shapes just right. I may add a little bit of shading to them, but I think they're going to end up mostly getting covered up with some grass. So I'll get this little section here put in, and then I'll show you how we're going to do the grass. So we're going to add a little layer of grass right at this line here. So you'll want to turn your heat up just a touch, and you're going to start with just the tip of the skew, and you're going to kind of start with the tip and then just brush it up so that you get a tapered line. And as you brush up, you will lift your tip, and that will give kind of a wispy feeling to it. So you got to remember too that grass does not grow all in one direction. So you want to add different directions. If you can do it by just rotating your tip between your fingers, that's great. But if you need to rotate your stalk that you're wood burning, there's nothing wrong with that either. Guys, if you find that your tip is getting too hot at the moment because I'm talking more than I'm wood burning here, mine is starting to glow. So you can give a little blow on that, just like that. Just blow on it just a touch, and it will cool it down for you. Okay, so there we go. There is just a little bit of grass. I don't want a lot. This is kind of a rock formation here. I don't want a lot of grass, but it will help to fill things in and to give it a little more character. Okay, and we're going to continue with these rock lines. I've had to redraw some of them because they didn't quite stay over the scraping and that sort of thing, but that's all right. If you have to redraw things, you have to redraw it, and you can either do it using the graphite paper or you can just use a pencil. And we'll just add just a couple tufts of grass here. We don't want a lot. And remember, as you go along the line, lift up on your nib or your pen tip, and that will give that nice little wispy, tapered look to it. And as well, we're just going to use a little bit of shading here just by using the tip of the skew and doing little tiny strokes. So instead of stippling, we're kind of doing hash marks because we're going to crisscross those to get a darker line. So it's kind of like a cross hatch. Okay, and at this point, we're looking at something that looks like this. Well, we're going to use the small skew chisel in order to do some of these lines, and we're basically just drawing these rock lines all the way down, following the lines that we did initially with the graphite paper. And these will be the lines that form the edge of the shore. And for the most part now, we're basically just tracing out the lines. We're turning this into a line drawing. We're going to add some shading, but we need to get the foundation lines in there first so that we know what we're dealing with. Now, guys, there is a lot of artistic license that goes with this. As I said, we're not trying to duplicate exactly the original image. We're just trying to sort of give an interpretation of it. And that's half the fun of this. So don't be too concerned about following those lines exactly. There's a lot of areas here where I'm just kind of ad-libbing and throwing in whatever I want. All right, so at this point we need to add some shading. And just like we did with the rocks on this side, we're going to do a very light hash marks. And if you don't remember from our last video, the hash marks are basically little lines, very short lines here, and we will just add them to give the shading. And if we want to turn them into a crosshatch, then we just add lines in the opposite direction, and they will crisscross to form texture and more shading. Now, once again, we're running into some issues here with these growth lines. They're really starting to cause me some problems. But as I said, you can slow your pen down on the growth rings, and that will provide you with some shading as well. Now, as well on these rocks, we have grass growing up all the way along here. So we can add that. Now we're going to put some longer pieces here. And we're going to put a few over here. Now, not only will this grass add to your picture as far as the actual image goes, but it's going to fill in some of those areas where it didn't quite look right, or you need it to, say, cover up a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of an oops. All right, so I'm going to do a little more shading on that. I don't think we need an extensive video of how to shade these things. And we want to do something up here with this roof. So I'm not sure what. So I think due to the fact that I'm losing my ability to shade because of our growth rings, I think I'm just going to add some line shading here where I draw an accent line. You can see me drawing that there. And it's just to give a little more character so it's not so plain. And we're going to do the same thing here with the other roof. Add a few lines. The important part, guys, is not to overdo it. It can become very muddy very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a few diagonal lines in each one of these window panes to simulate kind of a glare on the windows. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to add some shading here to our steps. And to do that, we're just going to put very tiny lines at the base of each one of our steps. All right, so now we want to do the shoreline. And the shoreline runs right across here. It's pretty much a straight line. And we're going to make it rather dark. Remembering to slow down at those growth lines. And with this being water, we're just going to add a few lines here to represent the ripples. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, guys, is with these ripple lines, as they get closer to the shore, they're closer together. So don't fall into the habit or the trap of putting those ripple lines evenly spaced. It's not going to look right. At this point, we're looking at something that looks like this. So we're getting there. Now, what I'm going to do now, I don't think we need a video of it, but I'm going to carry on shading those rocks that are down by the shoreline. And then we can move on to the background, the upper hills, and the smaller buildings. Okay, and at this point, we have something that looks like this. Now, guys, I'm going to add these buildings in the background. And I don't want to get into too much detail of doing these buildings, guys. I'm using the small skew and we're just drawing them in. We're following the lines that we laid out here and adding these buildings. Now, I think it's almost amusing to me that when we started off with this, the whole premise was, oh, we're going to use this pen and we're going to use this pen and we're going to use this pen. And, you know, we got this shading one here and we got this shading one here. And because of a type of wood or the way that our wood reacted with our wood burning, everything changed. And it just goes to show you how quickly that can happen with a project like this. And I mean, don't get frustrated with it. That's just the nature of it. Not every wood burning is going to be perfect. You're not going to be 100% happy with every single wood burning you do. But I guarantee you that every one that you do, you're going to learn something new. Even to this day, I mean, I still learn something new with every wood burning. And once again here, we've got these growth rings really causing some problems. They really do not like taking the burn. I don't blame them, it's hot. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue with these little houses here and get all of them burned onto our slice or our wood cookie, whatever you want to call this thing. And again, these don't have to be perfect. They're basically background noise, guys. Okay, and with that, we're going to add, there is like a fence that goes across here. And again, those darn growth lines causing some problems, but we'll go back and darken the areas where those growth lines are. And then we can just kind of fake the fence posts. And again, we'll add a few design lines or detail lines just to finish it off. And then we have the lines of the hills which go down to the water. And hopefully you can see there how I'm rotating the nib, this skew, between my fingers to get it to turn, to get it to twist into those curves. Now here in this background area here, you can see it here in the picture, we have a couple of trees. And guys, our method of stippling with the writing tip worked so well that that is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to draw a couple of light trunks here. And then just like we did over here with the house area, we're going to add some stippling here to add some trees. And after looking at that, I think I need to add some more trunks here. All right, so I'm going to continue to add the trees here and add some more shading around our little background village. And when I get that done, I guess we really have to just move on to the sky, and that will be about it for the project itself. Well, it hasn't taken very long, and what we're looking at now is this. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with the results. We're not going for photographic duplication. If we wanted that, we would just take a picture. So I want to do these clouds, but the more I'm looking at it, I don't want the clouds to take away from the image. We have a lot going on here between the stippling with the trees, the shading, and the kind of almost like scratching nature of these background buildings. This one here is almost a rustic sketch. And then, you know, we have things like wispy grass. It's a very strange composition, but I really like what we're coming up with. So I don't want the clouds to take away from that. So I'm essentially going to do them almost like a cartoon. And what I want to do is, using a writing tip, I'm going to outline our clouds as best I can and try to overcome our growth ring issue here. Now I'm trying not to burn them too darkly, darkly. Is that even a word at this point? The reason being is that if I don't like what I end up with, I can scrape it off. Because I mean, there's no rule that says I have to have these clouds in there. I have to say I'm not really loving it. So I'm going to try a different technique here. And that is not actually drawing out the clouds, but rather shading their outer perimeter, and see how that works out. I'm not sure, guys. I'm going to keep working at it and see how I make out. I may end up scraping all of that off again. I honestly don't know, but I don't think that we need a super long video on me experimenting with this cloud just to get the outline of it. So let me get this done, and we'll see how it goes, and I guess I'll see it when I get it done. And once you're done with the burning and you think you're pretty happy with it, just take a pencil eraser and give it a once over to get rid of any of those graphite paper lines that would still be left in there where you traced out the pattern. And guys, once that is done, well, you know what? If you want, you can check it out and see if there's anything else that you want to add. But if you're happy with it, you're finished. A coat of varnish and a hanger, and that's all there is to it. And you end up with something that looks like this. And there you have it. Wood burning, a wood slice. Guys, is this a perfect burning? Is this a perfect image? Absolutely not. Am I 100% happy with it? Absolutely not. But then again, I don't think we're ever really 100% happy with the things that we make. This here, though, was one heck of a great learning experience, and I enjoyed it, and I still really like the image that I've done on here. So it's not that I dislike it, it's that I think there's things that could be improved, and the improvement would come from using a different type of wood. I really wanted this live edge around the whole burning, but unfortunately that live edge and with this slice, this really caused a lot of problems. You saw it through the two-part series where those dark growth rings, you're probably tired of hearing me say that, but they caused so many problems. They just would not accept the burning, and you have to really slow down the use of your pen to be able to get it to burn properly in those spots. If you don't slow down at those points, you end up with this blotchy dark light, dark light, dark light line, and it just looks horrible. So you really have to play around with it. You really have to pack your patience. And even with the clouds, I'm not 100% happy with the way that they turned out, but I do kind of like the way that, you know what, they're not a total eyesore. And the way that I accomplished that was that after I burned it in, I actually took the scraper to it, and I was in the process of removing it when I realized, wait a second, they're getting lighter. This looks better lighter than that darker line that I had. So all in all, that worked out for my favor, as did lightening this tree on the left-hand side of the burning. I like the way that came out with a little bit of stippling just to kind of add some depth. But either way, guys, this is a project that is well worth looking into. It doesn't take a lot of equipment, and while I have these fancy razor tip burners, you could do this exact same thing with the soldering iron style wood burners. And I think nowadays they've come down so much in price, you can probably get one for about $20, $25. I'll see if I can get a link to something like that, and I'll post it below along with the link to these adult coloring books that I use to get this pattern from. If you haven't already, or If you found any part of today's show interesting, informative, enjoyable, entertaining, whatever, why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing, supportive audience base. They're going to have to be after today's show, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of it. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed part 2 of this series. I hope you were able to take a couple of hints for your wood burning and maybe improve your arsenal of techniques, whether it be the scraping, the stippling, the crosshatch, whatever works for you. I hope you were able to gain something from that. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.